this in a better way. Hey everyone, we are live with our Stop Emotional Eating Masterclass. Thank you to all who signed up, all that are on the live stream. There is a lot to share. I have a huge list of what we need to go over, and I want to make sure that we get to it. We'll probably go about 45 minutes, and I really recommend you stay till the end because there's a lot of information. There's a lot of things. There's also a bonus at the end, and let's get started. So let's see. There we go. So we're in the Stop Emotional Eating live masterclass, and this is for who? Who is this for? This is for people. If this is you, if this fits you, you're in the right place. You've tried every diet imaginable and still are frustrated and overwhelmed with food, eating, dieting, weight, and your body. And you've never been able to get long-term sustainable results. You just feel out of control with food and it doesn't seem to stop. If you're feeling, I said this, out of control with food, hate your body. This is something that I hear a lot from people about how much they hate their bodies and hate themselves. I actually was just talking with somebody yesterday who told me a lot about how much they hate themselves because they overeat. The other thing, if you feel negative thoughts about food, about weight, about overeating, this is the right place. You're in the right place to look at something different. We have some real good doables today that I think you're going to really like. And if you want to have, ultimately, if you want to have peace with food, peace with your body, and peace in your life, you're really in the right place. And we're going to talk about different ways to get to that peace with food, peace with body, and peace with your life today. The other thing I want you to do is stay till the end. I have a Stop Emotional Eating playbook, and this playbook is the tips, many more tips, and more expanding on the tips that we're going to talk about today. I can't get to everything. There is actually in my course, Emotional Eating Solutions, there is 8 weeks of information. So obviously we can't cover it all, but we're going to cover stuff that you're going to love today in this masterclass. And then at the end, I'm going to give you the link of how to get the playbook so you can get even more. Who am I? My name is Kim McLaughlin. I have a Master of Arts degree in clinical psychology. I am a psychotherapist, a coach, a podcaster. Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast is my podcast. So please go check it out if you haven't listened. A lot of the things that we talk about, I go into much, much more depth in the podcast. So please, Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. I am a best-selling author of the book, Feed Your Soul, Nourish Your Life, a 6-step system to peace with food. I am a speaker. I speak on large stages, small stages, virtually. I'll speak wherever there's an audience that wants to hear more about ending emotional eating. Lastly, who am I? I am a former long-term dieter. I dieted over my life. Probably, it's interesting that it's probably been 4 diets. And what happened was they were on repeat over and over and over again. I did the same diet over and over again, expecting a different result, which is absolutely the definition of insanity. And that's the kind of hamster wheel I was on. Are you like me, how I used to be? Have you ever eaten or overate and not known why? Are you, does that fit for you? If it is, put in the chat, put yes, because I want to know that I'm in the room with all the people, all the people that are just like I have been, where you eat and overeat and not know why. What happens is that there are these things that we do when we overeat, and what we're literally trying to do is to try and have weight loss. And I call it grasping, because we're always trying to reach for it and reach for it and reach for it and never seem to get it completely. Or when we get it, it's fleeting and it goes away. The other thing we do is we feel ashamed and bad about ourselves. We feel bad about our weight. We feel bad about our body size. We feel bad about how we look. We feel bad about who we are. And those all package together for this really bad feeling of ourselves. And it starts around food, but it really becomes all encompassing in our lives. The last thing we do is we're waiting for the next diet. That I remember that, waiting for the next diet. Like, what diet am I going to do? Who is losing weight? And am I going to join with them? Or I want to join with them. What diet are you on? How did you lose weight? And that's what I would do. And I know everybody that I work with does, waiting and expecting a different result that didn't come. One person that I worked with said that they learned new skills and insights to help them manage their overeating. That's what we're looking for, guys. That's just such a short sentence that's so powerful. That's what we're looking for. New skills, new insights to help them manage their overeating. That's what we're all looking for. Sorry, guys. What we know for sure is 90% of diets don't have long-term results. Sure, they might have short-term results and they might have things that work. And then in the end, it doesn't. You lose weight and then you gain it back. And what happens is that we then go on this ride around and around and around, talking or thinking that we're going to get to that kind of panacea of being thinner, whatever the size that's supposed to be. And if diets don't work over long term, but we keep going back to them, what's that about? I think that's something to really think about. And we're not going to talk about that too much on this masterclass. I've talked about it a lot in other masterclasses, and I've talked about it. I talk about it a lot on the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. I talk about it. I do a whole session on it, on dieting and do they really work, in my Emotional Eating Solutions course, because we've been told that there is this thing that if we follow the right diet, that will have this success. And it just doesn't ever happen, because of our statistics show it just doesn't happen. What I find is that, I was thinking of this and I thought, I think people fall into 3 categories. You're dieting, so you're actively on a diet right now. You're waiting to diet, like, what's going to be my next diet? I'm not feeling good about myself. What's going to be my next diet? Because the dieting is the way we're going to move off of not feeling good about ourselves. And then the last thing is being done with dieting. And being done with dieting is a big choice, because if I jump off that cycle of dieting, then what am I going to do differently? Because what we know with dieting is that it's a circle. Dieting, then we have binging, and then we have shame. And the only thing we know how to do after shame is we go back to the top and we start with dieting. So that is the cycle that we do. We just don't know how to move off of it. And that's literally what we're going to talk about today, is how to move off of that and do something that literally works and will make you feel better about yourself, right? Do something different, get off of that cycle, diet, binge, shame, diet cycle, and do something that works, that literally makes you feel better about yourself. So what should you do? The starting spot, I think, is to start being compassionate with yourself. Start saying kinder things, because we're really pretty angry at ourselves for what we do. We're angry. I just talked with somebody yesterday who talked about feeling really angry with themselves about overeating and binging, thinking that they know better, thinking that they should be over it. And what we know is that much of overeating has nothing to do with food. It has nothing to do. If you and I had a conversation right now about what led you to overeating, it wouldn't be about the food. It'd be about everything else. So when we go at it in terms of just the food, we're not hitting all the pieces. It just doesn't work. So much of our overeating has literally nothing to do with food. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And as an overeater or emotional eater, you're not a bad person. This is the other thing that happens, is that deep sense of shame, diet, binge, shame, diet cycle. The shame part really leads us to hate ourselves and to think we're a bad person and that something's wrong because we overate, because our body isn't the size we think it should be. And we think something's wrong with us. And the last thing is, you're not doing anything wrong. Be compassionate. So be compassionate about the food and really moving out of seeing yourself as a bad person because you overate. Okay, you overate. Doesn't mean who you are. Doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with who you are. And you've done nothing wrong, because all we've been told in our society is to diet. You don't like your body. You don't like how you're eating. What should you do? Diet. And I literally am going to give you a playbook. I'm going to give you a way out of dieting being the go-to idea to take care of what's going on with you around food. First, what's most important to help you stop emotional eating? What's most important? The first thing, what's most important? Noticing if you're an emotional eater. That's the first thing. So how do you know if you're emotional eater? We're going to go through 6. There are more, sign up for the playbook and I have more ideas to know if you're an emotional eater. It's in the playbook and we're going to talk about that at the end. So one question to ask yourself is, do you eat when you're not hungry? Do you eat when you're not hungry? Are you using food to make you feel good? I eat to make myself feel good. Do you use food in situations where you feel uncomfortable? Are you eating to overfull? Are you eating to overfull, being overly stuffed? Do you feel ashamed when you overeat? Do you feel bad about your body? So really look at those, and are there yeses? And how many yeses are there to those questions? And truthfully, if you have yes to more than one, you're probably an emotional eater. If you have yes to over 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, you're an emotional eater. Sometimes we don't think we're an emotional eater. We just like food, or I just overeat, or I have poor impulse control. But that's really not what it is. It is something that happens beyond your sense of control. And what we got to do is figure out what happens to you when you overeat, and then we move out of it. Or then we make another plan for what are we going to do instead. And then also understanding what the food means for you. So if you're meeting any of these 6, you're in good company. That's what we're here to talk about. And I have some doables for you today. I like talking about what can we literally do different once we end this masterclass today. What could you do differently today to have an effect, to literally have an effect on your eating? What I think helps, I like to put in here what I find are the 6 components for your emotional eating solution. Because what we've been told is that with dieting, the one thing you have to do is control your food. And if you see there are 6 components here, we're going to talk about them a little bit to give you some idea about kind of what we're up against or what happens when we have difficulty with food. First component is physical. Part of that component is food. How do you come to the table? How do you eat? How much do you eat? How does it feel in your body? And then how does your body feel, and how do you move around physically? How do you move around physically? In the physical component, exercise and food have gotten linked together. Exercise and dieting has gotten linked together. And what I find 99% of the time, people that I work with have stopped exercising because they don't like it, because it's been attached to dieting. In the first component, we pull that apart. We want to pull that apart about exercise and eating and dieting. So we don't talk about dieting. We talk about a different way to engage with food. And also we talk about movement, gentle movement, ways to move our body, because we literally are physical human beings in a body that needs to get some movement in. The next component we talk about is emotional, which is what we're talking about today, is emotional eating. And what are the emotions that lead you to overeat? There's a whole list of them. What I like to do is have everybody determine what are their emotions and how do they know they're having their emotions in order to move out of the emotional component or have more feeling more empowered with that component. The third component is the mental component. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today too. We have some doables around that. That's the part about your head getting negative and telling yourself and obsessing about food and thinking about it all the time, but also thinking negatively about yourself and negatively about things that go on around you. And that's the mental. It's a large component. It's one of the ones that really took me out in terms of really starting to sabotage me, that mental component. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more today. Number 4 component in emotional eating solutions is lifestyle. This is where we want to look at how do we engage with the world in terms of work, education, family, vacations, holidays, your routine. How is that lifestyle? Because that does feed into how we eat, what we eat, how much we eat, and then how we feel about ourselves. The 5th component is mindfulness. And that is the part about being really fully embodied and fully inside of yourself. I've been calling it more the wise part of you, the sage part of you, the part that just knows what to do. But we've kind of put everything on top of that inner knowing of what to do. We've kind of dogpiled on top of it. And what we do in emotional eating solutions is pull everything apart so you can start looking at, what is my wise sage mind tell me what to do? For some people that would be spiritual, for some people that would be religious. It can really exist in whatever realm feels right for you. And the 6th component is self-love. This is the part where we move out of that hatred and into, who am I really? Am I this body? Am I this size? Is that who I really am? Or am I something greater than that? And how do I love on myself and take care of myself in a way that is loving and kind and gentle? And these are the things we do. And these are the things that we cover. So this is why when you feel confused and overwhelmed with food, you have 6 components, and within each of those components, there are a lot more issues or things, challenges within them that lead us to overeat. And then in the end, what we do is we put together a wellness plan, which really looks at your personal, physical, emotional, mental, lifestyle, mindfulness, self-love needs, and puts it in a plan of action so that you know what to do moving forward. So what can you do to create food freedom? I love that term, food freedom, freedom with food, where I don't feel that I have to restrict and I don't feel scared to have food around or scared to be in front of food because I have food freedom. I know what to do. I know what's going on in situations. So the first thing we talked about to get more of that food freedom was identify the emotions. Are you an emotional eater? The second thing we want to do is to know when you're hungry or full. And I got to tell you, because we've all been on so many diets, this is a daunting task to start looking really at hungry and full and that physical component of what is going on in my body. I have a very lengthy component on this in emotional eating solutions that I obviously can't do that here in this little time, but I'm going to give you clues. I'm going to give you a starting spot of what you can literally do once we leave this call to start looking at hungry and full differently. I think of it in terms of red light, yellow light, green light system. And it's this idea of noticing when to eat and when to stop. So let's look, red light, green light. So let's look. In the middle is yellow, which is like, I'm good. It's what we call it satiated. I'm not too hungry. I'm not too full. I'm kind of in the middle. You move over to the right-hand side on the screen, it is green. And that means I'm entering into gentle hunger. I'm getting hungrier and I need to eat. I need to start eating. This is where it doesn't work to be on a timetable in terms of I have to eat it at 12 or I have to eat at these certain times. Granted, I know some of you are nurses and doctors and teachers who literally are on a schedule of when to eat. And we have a whole way of looking at how to measure hungry and full and to take care of yourself, given you're on that system, but or on that timetable of eating. But other than that, most of the rest of us can kind of figure out to eat when we're hungry and to start noticing it in order to be able to eat. And then red, moving to the far left, is we're too hungry. We're too hungry. Should have eaten a long time ago. And I still have that happen every once in a while. I get so engrossed in what I'm doing and I forget to eat and I go, oh my gosh, I'm really hungry. And I need to immediately stop what I'm doing and go get something to eat. The thing is I know when I'm feeling that way, I have certain guidelines of what I do in order to eat in a way where I don't end up overeating. Okay, so it's yellow light is I'm satiated, not hungry. I'm just not going to eat. Green light is I'm feeling hungry. I start noticing it and I eat. And the red light down at the way far left, it is too hungry. I'm too hungry and it went too far. Then over on the other end is we start getting into we eat and then we stop. We eat and then we stop. And that's a good thing. So that that first red light on the right-hand side is we've eaten and we stop. I feel fine. Gentle fullness. I feel good. I'm okay. When you go over to that second red, that is too full, right? Do you see on either end of the spectrum, we get too hungry and we get too full. And this is where we have problems. This is where it becomes really important to start getting in touch inside of your body to notice when are you hungry, to notice when you're hungry, and then to eat enough, not too much. There's a whole system with that, but this gives you some starting spots on what to do. The third idea is how do we sabotage ourselves mentally with food? This is what I was talking about earlier. The mental component was really huge for me. What I think in terms of that mental component, that the thoughts, is to start identifying your mental saboteurs. A very fancy statement for the little voices in your head that get you off track. And one of the major saboteurs that everybody has is the judge. The judge. And this is where we judge ourselves. We judge other people too, but I'm talking more about judging ourselves around food. And we judge ourselves. What is important is to start naming when that judge is showing up. Oh, there's the judge judging me for not eating. There's the judge for noticing, for overeating. There's the judge that I didn't stop when I knew I was full. There's the judge. And there's so much power in naming it. Just like earlier, we talked about naming, I eat for emotional reasons. Naming that is powerful starting spot. So start noticing when you're having these judgy thoughts, when you're having these judgy ideas. I shouldn't have done that. I can't do that anymore. I need to stop. I'm really bad that I did it. The judgment. And the last thing we need to do around the mental is to start calming those saboteurs. So the one saboteur we're talking about today, there are many, many more of them, but the one saboteur we're talking about is the judge. And the judge can be calmed down by calling it out and saying, there's me being judgy about how much food I've had. I'm going to go take a little walk to kind of settle myself. And then I'm going to wonder what I need to do differently with food. Right? We start then engaging the saboteur, that mental component, and having basically a conversation with it and saying, I get that, my judge is saying that I'm bad and wrong. It was just a misstep. It was a thing. I'm moving forward. I'm not going to allow myself to beat up on myself. I'm not going to allow that judge to beat up on me. And I'm going to engage what we talked about in the very beginning today was compassion. I'm going to engage in compassion. That calms that judge saboteur. That calms that judge mind that wants to get you off track. Okay? So start looking at that judge. When does it show up? Name it. There's the judge. One way to calm it is to say, Judge, I get you. You're doing this, and I'm not going to beat myself up over this, because we know that I know 100% that beating yourself up will never get you where you want to go. Never, ever, ever get you where you want to go. This all doesn't magically happen. All the things that we're talking about can't wave. If I had my magic wand, which I do have a little wand that I love to do when I used to work with kids, is I have a magic wand. The magic doesn't make it go away. We literally have to do work. We have to change how we interact with food. And it is more than just reading a book, or it's more than just reading an article, and more than just coming to a masterclass. This is a good starting spot, but this doesn't take care of everything. It gets you going, it gets you in the right track, but it doesn't magically take it all away. It takes time, guys. I'm just going to be super honest with you. And a lot of times people say, I don't have time for this. Well, you kind of have time for being overwhelmed and being upset and being in the confusion. And I'm saying, let's put the time in to having a different relationship with food. It's tough to stop emotional eating when you don't know any other way. This is what we've been talking about today, is when you only know dieting, when you only know being angry at yourself and frustrated and judging yourself, you don't know of any other way. And we haven't been taught it. What I like to do is what we call is intuitive eating, to manage or to take care of emotional eating. And intuitive eating gets us back in touch with ourselves and what we need, what our body needs, because we've lost track of it. We lost track of what our body needs a long time ago. And this is an opportunity to get back in touch with that. So if you don't feel peace with food, if you don't know how to manage your hunger and fullness, if you don't know how to deal with your emotions and thoughts, you need to know it is possible. It's doable to stop and change that. It really is. I am an example. My clients are examples. There is something you can do. You can change. You don't have to be on that same old hamster wheel going around and around and around, expecting a different result. Oh, at this point, I wanted to make sure you got this Stop Emotional Eating Playbook. All I want you to do is send me your email address. Just email me, my team at info@feedyoursoulunlimited.com. Just say you want the playbook and we'll send it right out to you. It's a way to get more in-depth information about emotional eating, overeating, the mental component, all those things we've been talking about today. You'll get more information on it and more doables, because we got to get going in a different direction to have a different result. So get the emotional eating playbook, Stop Emotional Eating Playbook, and just email us at info@feedyoursoulunlimited.com. So if you're going to start doing it differently, we got to have a plan of action. And what I offer is Emotional Eating Solutions, which is my signature course, my signature system for how you can know your body's reactions to food. That hungry and full, we have a whole component on it. We're talking about it in depth, about how to really notice it for yourself when you're hungry, when you're satiated, when you're full, when you're overfull. And we start getting a plan of action about what to do so that you don't overeat. The other thing we do when you experience in Emotional Eating Solutions is knowing the feelings that lead you to eat, knowing the feelings that lead you to eat. You learn what mine are, but like, we want to know what yours are, because everything's individual, and it's start noticing for yourself what leads you to overeat. And then we look at how to escape the saboteur thoughts. We talk more in depth about the thoughts and that mental component of what leads you to overeat. And we also increase your mindfulness about how to engage in more of that sage, wise mind to make different decisions. As I said before, it's really a coming together of all of those 6 components: physical, emotional, mental, lifestyle, mindfulness, self-love. It's putting them all together and then coming up with your plan of action about what you're going to do differently. And it doesn't involve dieting. It doesn't involve restricting. So here's what happens in Emotional Eating Solutions. You get 8 weeks of content. And right now that as I'm speaking, I am doing all of the components live, and we'll have it then all in a video format for you to go back into. But we're doing it live. I'm re-recording the whole program live with people there. So you can get in right now on the 8 weeks of content and watch me live present it. And then every week you have the option to ask questions to get more in depth. On top of that, we have a monthly Q&A in Emotional Eating Solutions where you ask your questions. So each week you have a module that you learn about, and then every month you come and you ask your questions. You send your questions into me. I answer them. You can either be live on the call and we talk about it, or you can send them in advance and I then will answer it. The live round is starting. Actually, it's starting now. I have to change the slide. The live round has started now. Another thing you get from Emotional Eating Solutions is a habit tracker. Once again, as I keep saying, we've got to have a way to do things differently. Habit tracker is a nice way to do it. What's nice about the habit tracker is it's not about measuring food. It's about your habits and what are you doing in order to look at them differently and make a different decision. You learn and identify what keeps you stuck mentally, and you always have doables. Every week there's a doable. If you get in now into the program, there are a couple really big wins. One is you're in for the lifetime of the program. So as long as I have Emotional Eating Solutions, you get to come on the monthly calls. You get to come back to the material. Anytime I update the material, you have access to it. So this will change at some point where I will have it be more of a membership where people will pay to come in monthly and not have the long term, but everybody at this point who is in Emotional Eating Solutions gets to stay, be grandfathered in for the lifetime of the program until the program goes away, which I don't see that happening anytime soon because it's really a very powerful program. It is, the investment in the program is $297. It is super affordable. If you think about 8 weeks of content, all of the components, you get me to talk to every month. You get me live right now as I'm presenting it to you. And then you'll get all of the videos in our portal that you can go back to and look at over and over again to re-up your experience and to learn something a little deeper information for you. And the price of the program will be going up after the live round. So if you get in now, you're going to get it at $297. If you wait, the price is going to be increased. So I just want you to know that this is a great time to get in. And also, since you're on this masterclass, you want to do things differently with food. You wouldn't have stuck around this long if you didn't want to do something different with food. So this is the place to come to join with us. So it's time to start thinking about what can help. Doing the same thing over and over again gets you the same results. And this is our signature system to help you move out of emotional eating and overeating and into a place of peace with food. $297, you guys. The link is at the bottom on feedyoursoulunlimited.com. You just go over to the tab for the self-study course, Emotional Eating Solutions, and you can get in easily. You can use the link here. There's also going to be a link in your email to get you linked to the program. So I really want to thank you for joining us. This has been such a win to have all of you here. I know that you're struggling, and I also know that there's a way out. I know 100% there's a way out. You can get the Stop Emotional Eating playbook at info@feedyoursoulunlimited.com. That'll also be in your email. So you can just link it over and just say, yeah, I want the playbook, Kim, and we'll send it out to you as soon as possible. I really want to thank you for joining me. I know there are 100 other things you could be doing right now, and I value your time, and I value that this is important to you. I want to say thank you. And if you could let us know in the chat, start letting us know what are things that you've gotten from this. What are you learning? What are your takeaways? What are your doables? I'd really love to look at it and see. So people are talking about all the things they're going to do differently around emotional eating and using the hungry and full. Start noticing more when they're hungry. This is a big one. Yeah. The are you hungry and are you full is a game changer, people. It's a game changer. It will affect you in ways that you just can't even imagine. So I'm so pleased you've been here. I thank you for joining us. I look forward to talking with you soon. Sign up for the program, Emotional Eating Solutions. Get in because it will help you improve your life exponentially. I'm Kim McLaughlin. Thank you for coming. I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.